Hey, it's Les from the TV Dudes. This week, I got to chat with Xavier de Guzman. He can be seen playing Roberto Vasquez, resident tech assistant on ABC's comedy drama series Take Two. We talked about what he did to prepare for his transition from a Muay Thai fighting career to acting, what he likes about stage versus screen, the favorite moments he'd like to play, and much more. I hope you enjoy. I think I watched 3 episodes of Take Two so far, and
Oh yeah.
Berto's definitely my favorite part of it. I'm hoping to see more of whatever happens to you and Monica's B plots.
Oh, brilliant. Oh, awesome. I'm happy you're enjoying it.
Can you tell me a little bit about your character and what your audition was like for Take Two?
Yeah. So the character that I'm playing, his name is Roberto Vasquez, aka Berto, and he's essentially just like the sidekick or the tech guy to Eddie Valletic's establishment, because he runs a PI firm, and Eddie's the field guy. He's the one that gets in people's faces, but then he still needs that sidekick, that Alfred for Batman, if you will, to help him piece together all the bits to help solve the crimes. But in terms of like the audition was a interesting process. Just how it kind of came about. Moving to Vancouver, I kind of did that on a leap of faith type of deal, because just the situations back home weren't ideal for myself, and I just decided I need a new change, and I haven't explored the West Coast yet, so from Toronto, decided to just get a one-way ticket here, and that just so happens to be the first audition that I had in room in Vancouver, and yeah, one thing led to the next. They loved the first audition. It led to a callback with a director-producer, and then as soon as I did that one, all of a sudden, nice little waiting period, but then I got called to do a screen test, and then the next day, they're like, oh, no screen test. The part's yours. So that was exciting. And then upon meeting the execs, they said, yeah, no, it didn't take any time at all because we didn't feel the need to wait. We saw your tape and we loved you, and here I am.
I feel like you're something that you often see in young actors or folks who are transitioned from a different profession into acting is maybe being a little slow on their pickup on their lines or seeming a little deer in headlights, on. So you don't have any of that I've been able to catch. Like you seem so quick and natural in the interplay.
Oh no, it's been a while to break that down. No, when I first started, I had another friend of mine who got me into the industry, who showed me who to study with, what books to read, things like that. And I remember doing a self-tape back in the day, and I actually still have this self-tape lingering around on my hard drive. But I remember that day because there I'm trying to give my lines and trying to do my lines, and he just kept looking at me and was like, why aren't you just doing it? And I'm like, I thought I was doing it. He's like, no, you're not doing it. So there's been a major development from where I was as an actor when I first transitioned from my fighting career.
What was it like realizing that you wanted to make that transition? What sparked your interest on set that made you think I'm going to go take the classes I need or do the training I need to do this?
To be honest, at first, the big, I guess, pull was that first paycheck that I got. I worked 3 days at scale, and I got that paycheck, and I was like, what the hell? I made this much for just standing around and punching people, which is what I did as a fighter. And I was like, this doesn't make sense to me. But as well as being on set in the environment where you have a whole team of people that are pooling their efforts and ideas towards this one project, this one final product, and then seeing that final product come to TV or film and knowing what it took to make that is like the definition for me of like movie magic. And that was also a little surreal, and that drew me to, hey, I think I want to do this. Because one big thing too, especially as a fighter or as any athlete, you dedicate all your time and effort into that one thing. And depending on how old you are, it could be that pivotal role from being a teenager into a young adult into an adult, where you could be in school, get an education, get a degree, and then all of a sudden you feel now you're too old to go back to college. You feel you're too old to, I know some friends who are too old to, and have a little bit of a ego about it, to go back and get their GED. And it's unfortunate, but once you get caught in that trap of dedicating that crucial part of your life to this craft, if it fails, you don't really have another backup plan. And as athletes, once you get injured, your only real fallback is to open a gym or to become a personal trainer or to become a coach. And it really limits, I guess, the influence that you can have, especially if you don't make it that far into your career.
Yeah. Do you feel like the training you had as a boxer, watching a sparring partner, the interplay that goes into fighting, do you feel like that has any similarities or has been any help being on set and the interplay with actors?
Oh, yeah, for sure. I feel there's a big relationship along all the arts, and how you can take one art and bring it into the next, whether it be music, dance, acting, or a martial art. For example, especially in music, when you're softening your music or emphasizing different parts of your music to help build that moment, or to change your tempo, or to change even the key in music, is applicable to acting as well, where you have to make those moments, those transitions, those shifts, so it gives those scenes that variety and that excitement to bring the audience on that ride that you're currently experiencing in that moment. And an example for fighting that I've commonly used, where, for example, if your combination is a jab, cross, and you have the choice now as a fighter to put an emphasis on which cross you want your power to be on. So if you want to knock the person out, ideally, you'd save that power punch for the last one. So out of those 4 punches, your last punch is going to hit the hardest. And that can also work in a scene where you're delivering your lines and you want that last line to leave that really impactful moment. And then whether or not in the editing suite, that's where they want to cut it, and then cut to commercial or cut to the next scene. But then you can also consider where you can make that hard hit at the beginning or in the middle of that scene. And then the rest of the scene is kind of there to, it has a direction, whether it's to soften the blow or to continue pressuring your scene partner. Because when you're fighting, sometimes if you realize that whoever you're sparring, whoever you're fighting has a good counter, you don't want to just finish your combo and then be there. You kind of want to hit hard but then still flurry with punches to give yourself an opportunity to get out before they counter, if that makes sense. If that analogy made sense.
Yeah, it very much does. I would think that there's a similarity to, you don't know what your opponent's going to do in the ring, but they're going to stay within the realm of fighting, and so you get as prepared as you possibly can, and kind of similarly, they're going to stick basically to the script, but you want to be ready for where your scene partner lands that impactful line.
Exactly. As well as one big thing as an actor, a term that people come across a lot is, what is your want? What is your want in the scene? And your goal when you're delivering your lines is to get that want. And in fighting, tactic that they have, and it's called baiting your opponent. So, for example, if my want is to land a solid hook, I want you to drop that guard somehow or to expose yourself somehow. So the way I'll get that is I'll kind of drop my jab hand a bit, or I'll drop my cross so it exposes my face, and it's going to get that person to do what I want them to do, because they're going to think they have a target. Then as soon as they try and come in for that hit, then all of a sudden I'm ready, I've gotten my want, then I can execute what my intent is in that moment. Right?
So not every line you say in a scene has to go directly at the want. Some of them can be in service of setting up that final.
Exactly. Yeah.
I would think that the timing of where you space those kinds of things and the interplay of all the other people involved in making anything come to screen or come to stage would be different on theater stage, on a television set. Do you have, as an actor, do you find any interesting ways that you have to change your approach, or do you prefer one to the other?
I don't prefer one to the other. I love them equally, and the experience and the thrill that I get doing either or, it's you can't really compare it. When it comes to your approach, I think the approach would come more at the performance. I believe the work stays the same leading up to, the preparation stays the same, because even on film and TV, even though you do block shooting and you're going from different emotions, you don't really have a smooth transition up. You can still prepare for it the same. You can read the script 100 times before you get on set, just like you would do for stage before you get on get out there for a rehearsal. But when it comes to the performance, one big difference that you have to consider is there's an audience for stage. Maybe if I was doing like a sitcom or something and there's a live audience, that can kind of play into it as well. But one big factor when you do have an audience is you kind of have to play them like another character. If you deliver a line and it gets a huge reception and everybody's laughing, you kind of have to ride out that laugh, because what if your next line is just as crucial? If everybody's laughing, then you deliver your next line, they're not going to hear it, and then there goes the plot, right? So it's an interesting relationship having that extra character out there, even though they're not really there. And then when you're on set, there's the luxury of being able to call cut and get direction and put you back on track as well. So that's also a very helpful thing I love about being on a TV or a film set as well.
I've been told by different actors that really more of their job is going on a series of auditions with occasional blips of being on a show, but that really, as an actor, your job is to keep showing up for auditions. What helps motivate you, when you've hit frustrating walls in going to classes or in trying to prepare yourself for this career? How do you keep yourself going?
Just understanding, like what you said, that the audition room is the work. I actually had a conversation the other day with a friend where she was going through that tough time of, I just want to be on set and work. I just want to book something and work. And I was like, well, that's not the work. And an example that I give whenever I have that conversation with anybody is, as an actor, it's our goal to make choices. It's our job to make choices. And when you go into the audition room, all the choices that you make going in there are yours. And even though, yeah, I'm on a TV show, but it's interesting because I can cheat the work, because if I don't get something, I don't really have to make that choice. I just show up on set the next day, and then I go straight to the writer or the director and I ask them, and then they tell me. So then it kind of, in a way, takes away from that creative process of using my imagination to do the work that I've been trained to do over these years, right? Mm-hmm. So that helps me just realizing that that is the work, and that is where all the efforts really need to go towards. Because if you can do an audition room, then you can work on set, right? Provided you get booked, but you have to do the audition room properly. And then, more in line with your question too, when I feel I've hit a wall, one big thing is just to keep myself busy. Because I know I can book, it's just a matter of time until there's a writer, director, executive producer out there that would want to use me again. I can't force it. I can't, get in people's faces about it and get angry about it. I just kind of have to be patient with it. And along with that, while I'm being patient, how can I potentially better myself for when that next opportunity comes? Whether it's go to more classes or work out more or do more yoga or start going for swims, changing up my routine so it makes me a more versatile and different person than the last time I went in the room. And also, keeping busy is a good way to just distract yourself from the fact that you're not getting auditions. And if keeping busy means going out there and going shopping, hey, go out there, go shopping, keep yourself busy. But then the more you dwell on something that you're not getting, I find makes it not come faster, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Do you feel like your background as an athlete maybe prepped you to be like that, or have that in the forefront of your mind? I mean, you can't always be in a fight, but you can stay ready, and that's really your job.
Yeah. And to an extent too, I feel there's less pressure, I guess, as an actor than as a fighter, because as a fighter, it's very physically demanding, as much as it is mentally. But as an actor, for what I wouldn't make, if I wasn't as physical as I was, I could make up for being emotionally ready or being intellectually ready. Mm-hmm. I could be a smart actor. I don't necessarily have to be the fittest actor.
Yeah.
And it would still be enough of a choice to win, a potential award. But as a fighter, if you don't have that peak physical condition, then that's what separates you from being in the ring against somebody else who's probably at their peak physical condition. Because as emotionally invested as I could be in a fight, if I can't last the 5 rounds, if I can't last the 12 rounds, then the emotional strength isn't really going to protect me from a barrage of punches and kicks to the head. So that was one thing about fighting too that took more of a toll, was you had to make sure your physical side. And sometimes, and as unfortunate as it is, our bodies can't keep up with what our mind wants and can do. Yeah, and I've burnt myself out a few times training for fights where I just couldn't get up in the morning just because my body didn't want to get up.
Yeah, I feel like with acting, that window of being able to be at your peak is much, much longer.
Yeah, definitely. I've worked across a few older actors as well, and they wouldn't be able to keep up with me physically, but the way that they just grounded me in a scene with their emotional level, it was insane. Where it was a transition of where the work went into, because their body couldn't keep up, so their mind took over, and they just took control of the scene, and it was incredible to watch.
Do you have any dream role you'd love to do, or a character you grew up with that you'd love to get to be in a remake or get to do on screen?
In terms of remakes, there's a few out there that come to mind, but any cartoon really that I watched growing up, I definitely want to be a part of. I guess I made the move and the leap of faith a bit too late, because I would have loved to have been in Power Rangers. I hear talks of another potential, maybe Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. That would be cool if that happens. If they're going to bring back a cartoon, there's so many cool little cartoons that happened back in the day. It'd be neat to have like another Rescue Rangers or Darkwing Duck, and then have like CGI, and that'd be cool. But in terms of like a dream role, I don't necessarily want a particular role, as opposed to, I guess, moments that I've wanted to play. I've thought out my death scenes. I've thought out my make out in the rain scenes. I've thought about having my Ocean's 11 slow motion walk with, I've thought of the Entourage scene where it's a convertible just driving down, the beach with just my buddies in the car. It's the moments that I want to experience. And in the words of Ryan Reynolds in Deadpool, I also want to have a superhero landing as well.
Well, man, I'm digging you on take 2, and hopefully we'll get to see more and more of Berto as the season goes on.
Oh, you definitely will. Thanks so much, and I'm glad you're enjoying the show.
The TV Dudes is an independently run podcast and a member of the Electric Sweater Podcast Network. We are exclusively listener supported. If you'd like to help us out, go to patreon.com/tvdudes. You can like us on Facebook and Twitter @TVDudes. All the music for our show is by our friend and original TV dude, Gregory J. Amani Smith. To find out more about us, go to thetvdudes.com and electricsweater.com. I'm Grant Davis. Thanks for listening.